Well, it's that time again when we reflect on this picture behind me right now. It brings back, this is a memory, something that we've told ourselves we would never want to experience. And I'm talking about the twin disaster, the fire and flood. Roland Walker is at, I think we decided to call it Ground Zero at Circle. And he's got a live conversation to have. Roland Walker, what do you see? Hello, Roland. Okay, I'm just going to hand over to Roland now. And the next thing you see on your screens will be Roland from Ground Zero. Stay with us. You're watching the AM show.
Roland, what's up around here? I think you walk inside.
Just did it. We're coming to you live. Kwame Nkrumah Circle area, or it used to be called Circle, but now the Kwame Nkrumah. Where the point, there used to be a Goa filling station where an incident took place 2 years ago, a twin disaster. We call it the fire as well as the flood disaster of June 3, 2015, in which over 120 people lost their lives. Well, a lot more others also sustained various degrees of injuries, many of them especially burns. And this is the venue where the incident mainly happened, where the causative factors were reported, because this was a filling station initially, of course now cordoned off, for which the tank where they kept fuel apparently was not capped well, and as a result of that, fuel leached onto the surfaces of the flood waters, which apparently was lighted, we don't know still 2 years on, whether by a passerby or by some fire or smoke which inflamed, and as a result of that, a lot of people got burned. Many people were just waiting in their cars at the time, or even stranded passengers were waiting for the waters to subside, and then leading to the various degrees of burns. And we reported it extensively as a news station, and you will remember that, especially when you go to our YouTube page, a lot of the incidents are still lingering on 2 years on. Now, there's a memorial that is going to be convened by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly starting today with a cleanup exercise, the Accra Council of Churches, the various waste management companies led by the Environmental Services Providers Association, Zoom Lion, Ghana Limited, and a number of the companies that undertake activities, especially the dredging on the door. And you can find numerous activities taking place, a cleanup exercise, a commemorative event, just to ensure that for all those who are part of this, they would also be in a position to say that they are doing something worthwhile, not only in remembrance, but also making sure that when the incident happened, they would say that there's a certain reflection as to what really happened. NADMO is greatly involved in this. That's the National Disaster Management Organization. We have Alhaji Siudu Benjamin, who is supervising the activities of NADMO here today. And we'll be speaking to him shortly. But before we do that, there's a gentleman who has an association of burns victims. And what's your name?
I'm Dennis Opoki Jemfi, and to be very sincere with you, I want to correct it. We are not victims, we are survivors.
Okay, so you call yourself survivors?
Yes,
okay.
we are survivors.
Now, I know your members are survivors of various burns, not only this incident, but particularly for this incident, you have a story to share. What is that?
Honestly, to be very sincere with you, most of the people who were involved in the June 3rd disaster, we had a couple of complaints, and it's like some of them were not compensated, and as a result, it's giving them a very serious challenges to be to be dealt with. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if the board of the company is rather listening to me now. I want to use your platform to appeal to them that those who were not compensated and were left out should be looked at, because economically they are struggling just to be able to face day-to-day activities, because most of them, their business are collapsed. They are not with the strength they used to have, and they are dealing with the challenge of being a survivor as a victim to survivor. So that journey alone, requires a lot of, support, like psychologically, what needs to be done to them, the tool to be given to them to be able to face, the day-to-day activities. I mean, the challenges involved. It's not just, it's a unique challenges, and it's numerous. You can't really single them out one by one. So they need support, as I said.
At the end of the day, we know that the victims from this incident are not only Ben survivors, would you say?
Yeah.
But how comprehensively, from the beginning when the incident happened, do you get some level of support and service, as promised, whether delivered or not?
Yeah. As association, we haven't, received anything like that.
Have you reached out?
Yes, we try to make some effort. Yeah. But Ghana Federation of Disability, we are part of them, and as a matter of fact, they've been giving us the empowerment. I mean, how to stand against some of these things, and we work in collaboration with many of them, and it's helping. But we live in a country that, excuse me to say, sometimes if you are not in the problem or if you are not in the situation, it's hardly for you to understand and appreciate what others are going through. And this is something that I really want us to, look at. We have the current minister, really getting us closer, and that is helping. But I must say that as a nation, we must all give the support to others who need us. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Charles. And I know that we will reach out to you again, Dennis, and make sure that we also attend to some of the needs and concerns you're raising. But really, you get to see the towers. It used to be called the GCB Towers, but because of the incident, now left a bit isolated in many respects. But this was a landmark at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle then, of course, now Kwame Nkrumah Interchange, which highlighted the problem as it is. But this is just a commemorative event. So you see that personnel of the Ghana Police Service are here. And then we also have various assemblymen in the Accra metropolitan area and adjoining metropolitan areas. And they are just part of the number of people and institutions who are making sure that those who have survived the incident, the institutions that are expected also to have done something, would do based on the advocacy that is done. So it's just a memorial commemorative event. We have Alhaji Siudu Benjamin. Alhaji Siudu Benjamin works with the National Disaster Management Organization. We would want to speak to him, and this commemorative event, this memorial that is taking place the next 2 days, the questions will be asked beyond this. What do we have the disaster management organizations doing beyond these events to help victims, more so forestall such events?
Good. In the first place, thank you very much for the interview. Now, we are not doing this to revisit the event. So those who were affected, you see, it's a sad event that took place. And tomorrow is exactly 2 years. And in our outfit, NADMO in AMA, we have done a lot of things that will make sure that this never happens again. In the first place, we've distilled the assemble, the silting of the gutter, which has taken place, and dredging of the gutter, which has taken place. So if you see, last year it rained, but the volume of the rain now didn't cause any havoc in a sense of the exercise that we did. So we are making progress. All that we are entering the public is to take note that they shouldn't throw their rubbish into the drains. When they do that, the drains get choked. And when they are choked, it is not easy flow of water. That is also another cause of what? Flooding. And that can happen again. So we are saying that never again in our life what we saw last 2 years.
But at the end of the day, NADMO is given a responsibility of making sure that something is done concretely as far as responding in times of emergency to disasters. Would you say that you've improved that part of your mandate or service?
We have done that. We have done that. And in practicality, we have had simulation exercises, making sure that when it happens again, we can rescue the victims or we can have a remedy. And this simulation exercise, in fact, it was well attended by the security agencies. And then we have in place mechanisms or devices that, should it happen again, will be able to, help the situation.
Well, so thank you very much. Alhazi Siudu Benjamin is with the National Disaster Management Organization. But this event in itself, the memorial for the next 2 days, is just a symbolic one. More so, the institutions need to go beyond these activities to make sure that for all the victims who lost their lives, or those who even survived the incident, there's a lot more that is done, especially when it's raining, in times of disaster, etc. And we know that many institutions tend to complement efforts in terms of welfare for the citizenry, etc. And so we have the chairman of the local council of churches. You can say the Accra Local Council of Churches and Adabraka Local Council of Churches. You are Reverend
George Solomon Mallet.
Okay. Now, Reverend Mallet, what assistance as the Adabraka Local Council of Churches do you give the victims especially? Because we know that the incident has happened and they are left.
Well, our assistance started from the night of the disaster. It amazes me that even though this whole place was flooded, there were 2 churches that water did not flood. And so a number of the victims were able to take shelter in those places throughout the night. Again, it's the fact that we provided counseling. We invited the psychologists from Legon, and we invited the psychiatric department also. They came and provided support, emotional support for the victims for about a month after the disaster. And we think that having taken place, we shouldn't just let the day of the disaster go without really not only reflecting, but looking at what lessons we can learn from the things that happen so that they never happen again.
What do you think are the lessons that we can learn?
The lesson we can learn is the fact that we change our habits and we support the state, support the authorities when they are doing their work so that the death and the things which caused the disaster to take that kind of proportion never happens again.
You have a certain, perhaps, anger in you about the way we manage waste.
Yes.
Or the way we even dispose waste.
Exactly. Sachet water, black polythene bags, and all kinds of polythene bags. People throw it away and they think that, oh, this one is a small one. But add that 100 times, 1,000 times, and that is what caused the disaster. Unless we know that the things we are doing, little drops of water is what fills the cup. If each of us will take our responsibility very seriously. You drink water, there's a sachet in your hand. Ask yourself, where can I dispose it so that it doesn't flow into the drain? It doesn't go, the wind doesn't carry it to a place where it becomes harmful to people. Those are the things which we must do. I think there must be a change in attitude. That is what we can do to support the government.
So this memorial, you're having a 2-day event. What does it mean?
Because of the fact that the day actually fell on Saturday, or falls on Saturday, which is tomorrow, and Saturday is a very busy day, we want to use today to do the cleanup that we are doing this morning, and then in the evening we'll have a short memorial service and have education by the fire service, by NAGBO, by Zoom Lion. We do various forms of education of the public, and then tomorrow morning we'll do a wreath laying. Those are the things we
wish you all the best, and we know that we're complementing your efforts in all this, Reverend.
Thank you.
Okay, but at the end of the day, there are certain relics that tend to remind us as to what really happened 2 years ago. Again, let's just give you a recap. 127 approximately were told that the victims from that fire and flood disaster. It's a twin disaster. And so when you come here, especially the site where the whole event happened, there's always the phrase, never again. You can see behind me these relics. These are chassis or cars that were bent following the incident. And you just have to have the camera pan these relics here, and you get to know the magnitude of the incident. Indeed, in some of the cars, people were sitting in the cars as they got bent in the flood waters as the fires were raging on. So you can see that consistently is an imagery that reminds us that we need to change our attitudes in many respects, but more so try to do things in order that the whole of society would benefit. But we have to speak to a lot more officials. And so I'll speak to officials of various entities and try to give a certain reflection as to all that is happening. But for all the things that we have to do, it's a memorial, 2 days, a second place, and starting with a cleanup exercise just as a sign of symbolism. And then there will be some requiem masses and church services. And then we'll go to the next event on Saturday, where we're going to have many of the reflective activities just to remind us as to what happened 2 years ago. 127 people lost their lives. We called it the twin disaster, the fire and flood disasters of June 3, 2015. And following that the next year, government instituted measures of making sure they dredged or desilted the Odo as well as the Korle lagoons adequately. But the problem of the poor attitudes of people towards waste disposal is something that officials that we've spoken to here, whether on camera or off camera, really have been talking about. And so that will be it. Mamavi Osuabuaje, we have to go back to the studio and try to close the chapter from the site here. Back to the studio.
Great job, Roland Walker. That's my colleague, Roland Walker, at Circle. And you've seen the activities that are happening right now ahead of the commemoration, the 2 years anniversary of that day that we've told ourselves as a people, never again. We'll give you a lot more updates as to the events that will be carried out tomorrow on our subsequent programming here on Joy News.